Hello YouTube, the Eye of Stone here, and today I am very happy to be sharing this presentation with my longtime fellow Taffer and collaborator in Thief, ehcmier. For my part, I just want to mention that some of my very most favorite videos here on the Eye of Stone YouTube, and really some of the most exciting things I've done in Thief that I cherish as a rapidly aging Taffer, I could never have done them. It would never have occurred to me to do them, or even if it had occurred to me to do them, I never would have been able to do it because I never would have been able to figure out how without ehcmier's wizardly input, information, wisdom, and assistance. But beyond that, I want to let ehcmier introduce himself in his own way, so let's hear what he has to say.
Drawmed. I play Drawmed. I explore everything in the Thief trilogy and use Drawmed to find more things to explore, then share what I find. T3Ed is sadly less fun to work with, never mind play. By digging into that dark matter, my appreciation for Looking Glass as a company and the individuals it was comprised of grows. It's one of many rich sources that inspires me for other projects and grants me widening perspective as a creative, teaching me something about numerous subjects I would never pursue in school or consider within my wheelhouse. That said, I feel this needs a disclaimer. I know Jacksberry squat about Drawmed. So, salt shakers and corrections in the comments may be needed for psychic damage control. Anyway, it's fun. For us. A niche obsession within a niche fandom for a niche game trilogy. In mid-fall of 2022, I brought to the Eye of Stone this idea of exploring the little-known mission safe areas of the Dayport streets in Life of the Party. As with many obsessive and groundbreaking endeavors by the early fan community members, Azal's Thief 2 Guide to the Strange and Unusual covers these briefly, but with differences compared to what one may experience over 20 years on and after the birth of YouTube. Back in the 2000s, I had 2 surprise occasions in the mission where I haphazardly landed on the street alive, and the mission wouldn't fail until I went exploring. Having no interest in crafting fan missions, and in spite of opening Drawmed and T3Ed innumerable times, I had no reason to learn the real meat of them necessary for building a simulation. I finally decided to see how the mission objective to stay off the streets was enforced, and why I didn't fail that objective on those previous occasions. Room brushes.
Room brushes are primarily used in the Dark Engine as the only means for hearing the game world's sound, and for the propagation of sound through the virtual air of a map. Neighboring room brushes need to overlap for sound to travel from space to space. They are placed independently of the terrain brushes, can have any dimensions, but are only cuboid in shape. Any room brushes that are not in some way connected through a series of overlaps are 100% cut off from propagating sound to each other. There are many examples of game locations the player character can enter where there is no audio propagation. For life of the party, while there are other means to trigger the effect, the room brushes surrounding Dayport street levels are additionally used to trigger the script for the objective enforcing mission-killing zones. Enter the room brushes down there, and in several seconds or less, Garrett's mission fails. For this experimental run, you'll be able to note how audio is affected when entering zones that are devoid of a room brush, where the mission does not fail, that we are calling safe zones. Due to room brush dimensions that weren't adjusted to cover these voids, especially after drastic changes made to the terrain between the alpha demo, The Unwelcome Guest, and the final official release, and the occasional instances where a room brush was not given a kill zone parameter, there are quite a few safe zones the player can reach. There are also some large safe zones the player cannot reach without using Drawmet.
So then, a very, very long story short, the complexities of how a Thief level is created, how a level in the first two Thief games is created, how it functions, how it's edited, how it's changed, can give rise to interesting anomalies. And in this case, in Life of the Party, there are in fact a great many areas scattered all over the streets beneath the Thieves' Highway where it very much is possible for you to reach those areas alive and to not have the game fail the mission on you. So what we're going to do now is we are going to examine each of these areas in detail, and our explorations will be narrated by me and ehcmier in conversation, and hopefully our remarks will serve to further illuminate and elaborate exactly what's going on here and how. So, with no further ado, let's get right into it. Here we go. Is there anything particularly striking about this area near the I believe it's the Baron's Way over there? Or?
Yeah. The reason that the frog beasts are holding still at this point, or at that point, is because there's no sound down there, so they're not reacting to anything.
Ah.
Yeah, I found this area around the tower really interesting. There's interruptions of kill zone, but with these big gaps of safe zone. You know, similar to how what you see on top of the tower, you get a different sense of how central it is. You know, there's Necromancer's Tower, and there's Baron's Way. You get this. It's really a hub and a lot of intersection happening there. And then this was also where I was struggling with the remnants of trying to get crates to work as a landing cushion, but you again surprised me with the frogs, and you know I was able to shake off like, okay, no more crates. Not worried about crates at all ever. Just stick with the frogs.
I think this one's just too far a drop. It's too deep.
Yeah. I was able to survive in my tests, but yeah, you'd end up with one shield, and even though it doesn't have any effect on the goal, there is that psychological effect of, oh man.
Yeah. And here we are out here at the Baron's Way. See, this was a situation where I was able to execute a diagonal drop onto the frog beasts, and I even bounced off them. I think taking just a little bit of damage, that's okay. That amount of damage isn't such a problem, but we were able to get... So there's that slice of kill zone that separates this from the area we just were. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we're in sort of a pocket, and the line is right where the alleyway ends.
Why is
So
it that
there's no sound in here.
Well, why is it that brief little kill zone? Why might that have ended up there?
I'd have to look in to see what the room brush is extending out from.
Gotcha.
It might be coming from inside a building and jutting across, because this is like a lot of these weird pockets come from the demo, which had very, very different architecture. Mm-hmm. And when they cleaned up, they changed the terrain, but they didn't change the room brushes. So these are like ghosts of the demo.
Gotcha. So on the one hand, it's a place you're not supposed to be anyway, so it doesn't function the way the places you're supposed to be function. But also, there's this unique situation of this level sort of having been two different levels. Gotcha. Here we're going to do something a little bit different.
Same setup.
Same setup, but why don't you explain to people why it is that this, as it were, doesn't quite work?
Well, the entire Baron's Way that is visible, properly playing the game, from the top of the tunnel down, from one side of the street to the other, it's just one large kill zone. It's one of that it didn't change from the demo. That street's pretty much the same. So yeah, there's no weird pockets or anything. So the goal is more, okay, get down the street and see how far you can get into the tunnel if possible.
Right.
And
which is what I was trying to do. Now, is that a mark of Cain Garrett has on him? Because the Builder's Child and the City Watch are able to survive there without it. So is that something that Garrett, in other words, is that programmed into Garrett, or is it something about the level that Garrett interacts with, or is it both?
Yeah, it's the room brush is it has a number, and it has a property that when the Garrett model enters it, it says this is here. This object is in this space, and kills them. Mm-hmm. And anything that doesn't have Garrett's number, or you can, in the editor, you could set the bots to also be included as if that object number shows up here, kill it. So anything that was assigned to Garrett and the room brush, that's where he gets killed off. So yeah.
And now we are looking at Beneath the Clock Tower. This one was a tight fit, to say the least. I'm kind of looking at, where is a good place to throw these frog beasts from, and, where approximately are they going to be? You see, I go for a straight vertical drop. What I had been trying to do is I'd been trying to throw them from the position where this segment begins, and the diagonal angle, I just could not land on the frog beasts for anything. So that's why I tried a straight vertical drop, and that's what ended up working. What is striking? Is there anything striking or unique about Beneath the Clock Tower in this ecosystem of these areas we've been exploring?
Yeah, as far as the map. And going exploring, you get a couple places to immediately, as the mission begins, you can immediately go check this out. And there's, it's a decent sized length of being able to walk around and see see some things that you can't when you're playing the level properly. So there's a little bit of you get to see down the street under the tunnel, close to the tower. You're like, oh, see how it ends and all that. And then personally, this was where I was the most nervous, trying to figure out how to. This is where I had given up trying to make everything doable with crates and rope arrows without getting into a new exploit like flare elevating. But so this is where I made the decision to see if you'd be willing to frog beast to survive a fall and go explore. This was early on. I didn't know if you'd be up to doing a whole project like this.
Well, there's
so
something.
We were both working it out at the time. Yeah.
There's something more rewarding about. I mean, for me, as far as that's concerned, there's something more rewarding about the fact that there were so many of these to find in one level. That honestly attracted me to it a great deal. And I'm stubborn. When I get an itch to do something in Thief, I don't stop until I've either done it or I am absolutely certain that it can't be done, and I'm going to spend a lot more time trying than is reasonable. And here we are going over to the other side. This is near where we just were. What are we not, just to maybe help people understand more, what are you seeing when you look at a corner like this in Dramed?
Well, I always I find myself always wanting to just put the camera down there and just look around. And, when you play the mission properly, you're forbidden from being down there, and so that because I'm playing a thief, like you can't tell me not to be down there.
Right.
So, and then for most of what I have to say, since the other side of the bell tower, that whole wraparound alleyway is, the more eye-opening. This part, it's more like a technical nerdy thing of, this is kind of like a really, it's easy to get down, it's short, and it's a good way to demonstrate where the border of the room brushes are, and how when you walk out of the room brush into an area that is either not set up like that to carry the sound, or it's set up as a kill zone, you hear the crickets stop. The ambience will stop, and that's how you know, ooh, I've crossed a line. And sometimes the game, most of the time in this mission, the game says, oh, you failed, but you'll know if you do it that actually it was worth the reward.
Here we are by the housebreakers. I think I pacified them.
Yes.
It was a little bit of a different situation here with the safety. Come up with a kind of a funny nickname for it. This is a fun one. It's kind of an odd shape, isn't it, for a safe zone?
Yeah. And after really getting into it, I was more concerned with the actual travelable area. And I just sort of noticed it had this pronounced T shape, but if you look in the editor, it's actually like a backward J.
Yeah.
But this is the area that you can actually, yeah, you can see got that long, narrow crossbar. Yeah, and there's the other way. There's weird little secrets down there too, but yeah, you can't get down there.
What secrets?
Yeah, so there is a place where there's a hole in the world, and
I see.
you can actually chuck objects. Yeah, you can chuck a scouting orb down there from above, and look at it.
What happens if you throw the scouting orb through the portal, as it were? I'm just curious.
It sits there and kind of nestles in, just sort of wedged in there in this weird little, again, very narrow nook and alleyway. But there's this.
You can't throw it out.
Floor drops out.
Okay. If you throw it out of the world, do you get a weird error, or does it look like?
No, it's actually solid skybox, gotcha. But it's rendered so that it looks like just open nothingness forever.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this, man. Which of all the ones that we were able to do, which one is the most exciting to you?
Oh man, well, just personally, as far as my personal excitement, which is not at all going to translate to the viewers, is Shemenov Rectangle, because that's where the breakthrough happened. But you did so much more before that.
There's something about the Shemenov Rectangle that really captures the essence of this entire project. In some respects, this one was easy and it was hard. It was not necessarily difficult to get down there without dying, but getting down there and not triggering the thing that would kill me. That's where, the frog beasts came in, and this was a difficult challenge to be sure, but it was very rewarding because as long as I can get the frog beasts to cooperate, I can do this. There is a way to do this. What does the Shemenov Rectangle mean to you, though?
This is where, because of what I saw you doing, this is where I was surprised and delighted, and it showed a perfect coming together of two different minds, where I had something in my, I had an idea of what I was trying to do, and then you improvised something, and the angle you took just suddenly unlocked a bunch of ideas, and then I wasn't expecting frog beasts. At this point, I was still trying to make crates work as a soft landing, where it didn't matter if you took damage as long as you survived.
Right.
I was folks like how the angle of jumping off the roof into that notch, that corner, so that you would stay in the corner once you hit the ground and you wouldn't bounce out into the kill zone. And then when you just improvised something while I was still talking and trying to explain, and it was like, oh wow. But this is where the crates went away, and it became frog beasts.
Yeah, because crates can work. Crates are crates. The storied thief crates. There's so much that they are useful for. With crates, a lot depends on the skill of the taffer who's using them. If you have insane crate skills, then hey, the sky's the limit. They can cause problems of their own. Sometimes they don't shield you from damage perfectly. Sometimes they do cause you to bounce all over the place. It was just a lucky thing that the frog beasts don't do either of these if the technique works. Now, getting it to work can be fractious. The frog beast technique served us well in some of the other areas.
Yeah, it made everything else possible for this project, and I was not expecting it at all. I was trying to do classic frog egg jumping, and when you were working this out on your own time and iterating, going over and over it, I had no idea you'd come up with the Frog Beast map. And so I was just, it was wonderful to see something fresh and new, in general, as well as the unlocking of the rest of the project. It was a matter of me working out boundaries and the more technical stuff of it. But yeah, you were cruising after that.
It definitely allowed us to start cruising. It teaches that these small objects have at most a very small usable surface area. And in the case of the frog beasts, I'm using that surface area to keep Garrett alive because he doesn't react to that surface area the same way he does to the surface of the pavement after he's been falling. Yeah. So therefore, I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I increase that surface area? And it's just, a happy situation in the Dark Engine that multiple objects can in fact inhabit the same space or very nearly the same space at the same time, so that as long as the frog beasts stay put for a minute, it can work. Now, they don't always. And so it's a clumsy technique, but I'm stubborn. Is there anything else about the Shemenov Rectangle in a different aspect that is important to you, or was it just that this was the point that it all came together?
As far as the collaboration and whole overall point of it, got everything covered, and anything else is more like the nerdy stuff, the very, what I was doing in my own head, and, the fact that, like, I'll just say Garrett fitting in that space without triggering the kill. Garrett actually is bigger than the space, the safe space, and so it's amazingly it's amazing that it works, but it also shows how forgiving the Dark Engine really is, which just plays into the whole player agency. It makes it really feel more organic and allows for somebody who's clumsy like me to get away with some crazy things, and then see someone like you get away with even crazier things. Just great.
You see the two rope arrows come down with a destroyed child of Karis between them, and now here come a bunch of frog beasts. And this is what your Eye of Stone, being very stubborn, even in the face of a futile situation and set of circumstances, this is what me being stubborn looks like. But is there anything about this situation that is different from what we saw in the tunnel at the Baron's Way, or is this exactly the same principle, just in a different location?
Same principle, different location. So yeah, there's all these little pockets of safe space, but you can't get into them without passing through the kill zone. So it's just a matter of how long are you going to live and get to look around before you die.
Now, let's say I had succeeded in between the remnants of that builder's child and those frog beasts. Let's say I had managed to ricochet myself off of those and somehow horizontally sent myself flying into that tunnel. I mean, even if we understand that I was not likely to get enough of a bounce off of those things. Although I will say, I do have to add in this connection that I have demonstrated long since that, you can jump on a child of Karis from nosebleedingly high heights and survive. And when you do that, you get a ricochet that does not harm you and sends you flying in a direction almost perpendicular to the one you hit it at. So now that's a live builder's child. And in this situation, jumping on that builder's child the same way turned out to not be feasible. That's what I was trying to duplicate. What you're seeing here is between the frog beasts and the boiler there. That is the technique I was trying to employ. Even if I had executed that stunt correctly, it doesn't really matter that Garrett's feet don't touch the ground. If he's in the cube, he's dead, basically.
Yes, the kill zone goes to the top of the tunnels. So you see the top of the arch. That is the upper boundary where the kill zone starts. So as soon as you start descending past that point, you're going to be dead.
There's just nothing to be done about it.
Exactly.
The safe zone is inaccessible.
Yeah, if the kill zone was a solid, you wouldn't see the tunnels. Yeah, getting into that pocket of air and taking a look back at all the way down, it's like that's the reward, is that rare view.
And here we are at Angelwatch, and here I am attempting to execute a jump that I was worried just might be impossible, but I finally got the frog beasts to go straight down, and I finally managed to hit them and bounce off them and live to tell the tale, none of which had been working properly, but finally it did. I can't even begin to imagine how many attempts it took to pull off what you're seeing on screen now. What is it about these areas near Angelwatch that makes them distinct?
Well, I was having a really hard time trying to figure out what was going on and then conveying that to you, and I kept getting it wrong. It hadn't occurred to me. I hadn't seen the demo and really studied it in a long time, and I didn't know that the crazy room brush overlap and gaps and intersections that are happening all over the grounds of Angelwatch were due to the terrain being heavily redesigned and opened up. But they didn't clean up any of the room brushes from the demo. I didn't understand why you could walk a long distance and the ambience would cut in and out, but there was no kill zone. And then suddenly there would be a kill zone. Looking at it in Andromeda for the longest time, it was pretty stupid. But once I figured it out, I was like, oh, okay. And then everything started opening up again, and then it was heavily on you landing on the frog beast mats from so high.
From so high, and again, it was not easy to do, but again, I sensed it was possible, and my stubbornness just kept me going until I was able to get it. I do remember relying more on the map you gave me. You gave me a lot of infographics and maps, and interestingly, in these big areas, having those maps on my cell phone while I played was more important so that I could explore more of these areas. In other words, I had to be more careful in these large, wide open areas not to hit a kill zone too soon, because in the other parts of this level, you're so hemmed in that there's only so many directions to go. Whereas here, there's the possibility of being more sloppy about your footwork, and it was kind of a guessing game about, okay, where does my position on the ground correspond to this image I have of the, approximate size of the safe zone. That was the other major challenge, but the safe zones at Angelwatch are oddly rewarding, I think just because of how unusually they were formed and how difficult they are to reach.
Right, since you were able to get down to the street and there's the dead guard. It's the only dead, not undead set dressing besides the dead hammer in Crag's Cleft. Pure set dressing, and not only is that guard kind of unique and also telling a story, but the kill zone around it is also the tallest in Dayport. The top of the upper boundary is about the same height as the house down there. And the guard is surrounded by this huge kill zone, which, if you don't know about the demo version of the terrain, seems overkill. Like, wow, they really don't want you to get anywhere near that guard.
Right.
So
was he significant in any greater way? I'll be brutally honest. Here's your Eye of Stone dropping something of a bombshell. I never played the demo. I've never gotten around to playing the demo version of Life of the Party. Does that guard, even if only as something in the background or in the story setting of the level, does he play more of a role? Is he not there? Is that high kill zone just a result of what had been there before? What is it?
Yeah, so that guard is actually the guard itself, and the little story about they try to set up for you with bottles on the top of the wall and the dead guard down below, telling you that he drank himself and fell. He drank too much and fell to his death. The guard placement and the little cue set up to how he got down there and what's going on, it's the same. And the kill zone is the huge kill zone is just a result of the building that used to be there being removed, and but the room brush wasn't changed.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay. And here we are once again at Angelwatch. We're going to be on the other side of this building this time. This was once again a very challenging drop. I made it work basically with a straight vertical. Frog Beast Matt goes straight down, and then I go straight down on top of it. That did not work the first time or the second. Then when I got down there, this is just yet again a whole nother world. So what's up with that?
Yeah, there's some really anomalous things happening here. There's nothing like this anywhere else. There, you can walk straight and from this point, and the sound will cut in and out as you pass through remnants of the old terrain where the room brushes weren't redrawn. And so it's like, oh, I'm not dying. And then you go a little further, like, wow, I can go pretty far. And then suddenly you're dying. Like, okay, why is it like this? And I couldn't. There's a lot of intersection of room brushes overlapping, and
it's like
I had to really go in and separate everything.
It's like the vapors of two different dimensions coming in and out of phase on top of each other. What could you talk a little bit about what you had to do to sort that out and why it wasn't obvious and what you did to finally arrive at clarity?
I knew that Azal, who had done the write-up when the game first came out for a A Thief 2 Guide to the Strange and Unusual. And he was an explorer like us. And I wanted to see what he said about the grounds, because he was also exploring the grounds. And he was doing it in a quite different way. It was pretty fascinating. But he had... he's the one who wrote in his guide about the demo and the terrain being very different, and like that suddenly cleared up all the confusion. And then I went in, I looked at the demo map, and like, okay, and I see why those room brushes are placed the way they are. And then I went back into the official release map and cleared out everything, all the visual information I didn't need to deal with. Just noise at that point, and delineated this overlaps this. That's why, even though these two different a safe zone and a kill zone were overlapping, but it was favoring one over the other. So I had to, like, because it was the order of placement. You put in something, and you put in something on top of that. The second one overrides the first. And so I was able to figure out, and map it out. And then the confusion was gone. But yeah, just walking around, if you don't have an idea of where the lines are, it's like, what the heck?
It's spooky. So now we're going to the dark side of the moon, or the dark side of Angelwatch anyway. Not the first time we've ended up back there. I dare say we've become familiar with this tower over the years. What we're doing is we're going to a safe space that's on the pavement beneath the back of Angelwatch. And when I am on the platform that's back there, you can sort of see up above you the remnants of like a chute or a tunnel or something that I can never remember if that was something from the demo or if that was just an unimplemented stub of an idea. I can never keep it straight. But either way, is there any like hint you can get from looking at the demo why there might have been safe spot there originally?
I think it's just a gap that it's through the wall on there, just kind of a coin slot of a hole or a cartridge slot.
Yeah.
And
of course, it's not an easy thing to get to. As you can see, I had to flare elevator our way there because as tedious as this can get, it was. I would maintain it was less. It was less tedious to just flare elevator this as quickly as possible rather than to go searching for boxes and getting boxes past guards. And so I just flare elevator us over this this sort of triangular column that's blocking our way because I didn't want to go the speed potion funny jump route either. But we're going to be wrapping our way around Angelwatch to reach this isolated little slot of pavement that is safe to land on that is hard to get to, but it's just it's somehow characteristic of Angelwatch. I sort of sitting here talking about this with you, I sort of wish I was better acquainted with the demo of Life of the Party. But, it's like for all my involvement in Thief, the process of learning never ceases. And is the demo really that different from the final version of the level?
Yeah. There are people who played the demo first, and they prefer it.
Huh. Interesting.
Even though Angelwatch itself is a lot emptier, they like the city leading up to it much more. It also plays into how there are a lot of people who they are not into the Angelwatch objectives. Listening to all the recordings, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
They find that far less interesting because it now, instead of the Thieves' Highway and the scenery and all these amazing possible paths to experiment, now you're more focused on doing the thing,
right,
and go do the other thing. So,
here's the black hole of death. I hate to be the one to tell you, folks, but the city sits upon its own supermassive black hole, and you can see it back there. But fortunately, we're not taking you all down into that. We're just going into a deep Sega Genesis cartridge slot that we can never get out of again. But let's see, what did I do here? So I used the corner, and that was quite a volleyball bump. I think I took a little damage, but these drops around Angelwatch sure are dangerous. I don't know. It's kind of a neat area. It's just kind of a neat way this all played out, that there just happened to be a safe zone. Do you happen to remember off the top of your head, and it's fine if you don't, is the safe zone, is it exactly the shape of this little strip of pavement we have here, or is the safe zone itself wider than that?
Yeah, the room brush is more general. It wasn't. They didn't intend for this to be something, and they didn't intend, for sounds to be utilized for anything. So there's no reason to have ambience out there. So it's more just kind of a hole that wasn't filled in.
We've actually gone back in time just a bit. This is an area before, on our way to the coin slot. If we had jumped off sooner, you can see I had the 3 frog beasts in position when I made that jump, and I just I needed that flare to illuminate their approximate position, because from all the way up there I couldn't really see them well enough to jump with confidence. So the flare, it's there so I can see them. It's there to help me see if they're moving. It's in a shadow. I suppose there's nothing terribly much to say about this other than that it's large and it's a safe zone. I mean, is there anything that comes to your mind when you think of this particular area?
Yeah, there's something really gloomy, and I'm, emotionally about that area. And then that's also where if you look at it in the editor, look up at the building next to Angelwatch, you'll see floating windows, invisible terrain where the buildings were moved around, and they just didn't bother moving the windows, like they were in a hurry. But that is, and I remember jumping down there, and for some reason, even though it's the same height, it feels deeper somehow.
Yeah.
Just everything feels like it's much further away. There's something about it.
I hear you. It's creepy back here. So here we are again. This time we are going around the other side of Angelwatch. This is necessary. These things matter. We're going to be flare elevatoring again. The procedure for getting down to the street, we can't get there just from where we were by the guard's body, because there's a kill zone in between us and where we're going. So that's why we have to go up through Angelwatch and go out on the ledge and flare elevator over the triangular column and then go around and barely survive a controlled drop to the street. I don't know if there's anything particularly of interest about the particular safe zone we're going to. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. If there is, you can tell us. But I always thought that, I mean, again, you're not supposed to see it from the outside, but it was almost though it's like the doors that we're going to be seeing here on screen in a few minutes. There seems to be something odd about them, like they're just not set the way most doors in the levels are set. Hey, am I hallucinating, or is that?
Yeah, those doors are really odd, and a lot of people do know about how they're metal doors, but they act like wood doors. But then there's the whole thing of, how when you walk up to a double door, either they both open outward, inward together, or one side is independent from the other. But these doors don't. They move in opposite directions.
Right.
And not even fully. Like one of the doors is just acts like it's broken.
Yes, it does. It's like, because it's like, you would almost think that it's like if they were in a rush, wouldn't it be that it would, it's like I can't imagine that programming every door in a level in the Dark Engine is like this precision, high engineering process. But maybe I'm wrong about that. It's like, do you think that the doors are wonky because it's something they had to rush in order to get these two released on time? Do you think it was indifference because we're not supposed to be messing with those doors?
It seems to be a remnant of an idea that they had, but there is absolutely no remnant left of what. Why? Because if you're building using the standard assets, everything's set to a default mode. So you can grab the door object and duplicate it and just stick it everywhere. And
right.
The only thing you have to worry about in general is which way does it swing, because that's probably the most obvious part architecturally, navigation wise. And then the consideration becomes then lockpicking or key or already opened.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no idea what they had. Somebody had to deliberately do this to these doors,
right?
To make them work like this. So I don't know what they were trying to surprise somebody on, or.
Well, I was sure surprised because, again, I was thinking I was going to save myself from this child of Karis with those frog beasts. But again, they're not hearing anything, so they're inert, whereas he heard the doors breaking, and that made him suspicious, so now he's looking. Yeah. So he came out here, and he's just doing his thing while he's in his alert state, I guess. The frog beasts didn't show the slightest interest in him. You can see him just sitting there.
Yeah, I hadn't considered, maybe the frog beasts are just cued for sound and not sight. I have not explored that. I should, just to get that curiosity taken care of.
I wonder why I detonated them. Maybe I was trying to get the attention of that mechanist in there. It seemed like when he got mixed up in the couch, he just became confused and couldn't get himself free of it. But see, it's like there's actually nothing stopping them from walking through those. They're not supposed to, but it seems that when they do, they just stop behaving predictably.
Yeah, nothing's set up properly in this area, so you get to see seemingly chaotic results. It is perfectly logical when you know how the room brushes, how the NPCs really are taking their cues from those room brushes.
Do you think that those wings were built so big so that it would look right from inside the building?
Yes, that's the theory. Is that it's a like maybe a forced perspective kind of thing from, especially when you're approaching Angelwatch for the first time. It's like they really wanted you to be able to see that there was another angel around the other side. There's even more angels in the demo.
Well,
but yeah,
ehcmier, we certainly and I think all my viewers thank you very much for your involvement in this project and shedding light in this very interesting and very eerie aspect of one of Thief 2's, Thief the Metal Age's biggest level. And we certainly, the fandom's understanding of this sort of very interesting but kind of arcane aspect of, Thief, Life of the Party is a major level of Thief 2. So that's not nothing. And, I don't think that this aspect of this level is well understood at all in the present modern fandom. I mean, you made you mentioned Azel, and there was indeed, he's one of the champs of sort of this earlier great age of exploration that had happened, and we haven't had that in the fandom in a long time. So we thank you for taking us on the on this excursion.
Man, it's just been a great pleasure to connect with people who share these kinds of interests, and so I thank the Eye of Stone greatly for humoring me when and with relish when I say, "Hey, I found something." You're the perfect person to check it out with me.
For many more times to come, hopefully.
Yes. There's as you know, the inspiration never stops. The joy of discovery never stops. It's just I can't believe what a miracle this game is.
Yes.